Hello students, in today's session we are going to study what exactly is calorific value. Now calorific value is one of the most important characteristics, one of the most important properties any kind of fuel can have. Calorific value in itself is one of the biggest properties of any fuel. It actually helps us decide the quality of fuel. Let us see what exactly is calorific value. It is one of the most important characteristic property of any fuel. Now when I talk about any fuel, it can be any kind of fuel. It can be a solid fuel, a liquid fuel, or a gaseous fuel. It can be a fuel which is used for domestic purpose. It can also be a fuel which is used for industrial purpose. That means this particular property applies to all the fuels. It is not in particular to a particular kind of fuel. All fuels have to be measured on the property of calorific value. Let us now see the definition of calorific value. Why is this particular property so important? Why does it apply to almost all the fuels? In fact, all the fuels which are there have to undergo through this property. Why is it so important? That we'll come to know in the definition of it. Let's see the definition. Calorific value may be defined as the amount of heat liberated by the complete combustion of a unit mass of a fuel. Now, if you see the definition is very general and it can be applied to all the fuels. Let us take an example and then try to understand this definition. The definition says that the amount of heat liberated. Of course, all the fuels that we use it for a particular purpose, and the purpose is it has to liberate some amount of heat. If I'm using certain fuel at my home, for example, let us say I'm using LPG at home. What is LPG? Liquefied petroleum gas. I'm using it for cooking food. Of course, I will see the amount of heat it generates. If it does not generate sufficient amount of heat, how will it cook the food? In the same way, if I use the same fuel or a different kind of fuel as an industrial purpose, for example, let's say in the industry of metallurgy is nothing but refining of metals, getting metals into their purest forms. If I want a particular metal in its purest form, then I will have to apply a lot of heat and melt that metal in the first place. By doing so, by giving heat to that metal and melting that metal, what I am needing fuel, and that fuel should produce enough heat so that that metal melts. So if you see the definition, the amount of heat liberated by complete combustion. Now what is combustion? Combustion is nothing but a chemical process. It is a chemical process wherein the hydrocarbons in the fuel mix with the oxygen from the atmosphere. Once the ignition is done and the combustion takes place, giving away kilocalories of heat of a unit mass of a fuel. Now that is very important. You cannot compare one fuel to another fuel if the quantities of fuel are different. For example, if I take 1 gram of wood, 1 gram of coal, 1 gram of petrol, 1 gram of diesel. So what am I doing? I am taking 1 gram of different quantities of fuels. When I am taking 1 gram of different quantities of fuels, and then I am doing the entire ignition process, and after that I am doing the entire combustion process. So both ignition as well as combustion process are done by me. After the entire ignition process and the combustion process is completed, how much heat is liberated from that 1 gram of wood? That is measured. After the complete ignition and combustion process takes place, how much heat is liberated from that 1 gram of coal? That is measured. Similarly, for both petrol and diesel, how much heat is liberated after the entire ignition process and the entire combustion process takes place? That is measured. So overall, heat is measured, the amount of heat liberated is measured. If you have higher amounts of heats liberated, then the calorific value is high. If you have lower amounts of heat liberated, the calorific value is low. If I have a certain fuel giving high amount of heat, that means if it has high amount of calorific value, we say that that particular fuel has a good quality. It's a good quality fuel, and thus the usefulness of that fuel will also become higher. Thus, higher the calorific value of a fuel, higher will be the quality of the fuel, and higher will be the usefulness of the fuel. That important is the characteristic of calorific value. Now, this particular quantity needs to be measured, and anything cannot be measured if we do not have any kind of units. Everything is measured in terms of units, whether they are SI units or CGS units, but some kinds of units are important. Over here also we'll see certain units by which we can measure this particular very important characteristic of calorific value. The first is calorie, the amount of calories liberated. If there are a lot of calories liberated, it has good calorific value. If it has very little amount of calories liberated, it has less calorific value. So the amount of calories liberated has to be one of the major parameter. The term above calorie or the unit above calorie is kilocalorie. The same way we have centimeter, kilometer, we have milliliter, liter. In the same way we have calories and kilocalories. Kilocalories is just a higher unit than calorie, belonging to the same family of units. The third is British thermal units. British thermal units are also a way of determining and measuring the calorific value. And final one we have is centigrade heat units. Now centigrade heat units is nothing but a degree Celsius scale. So whenever we say it's 40 degrees Celsius, it's 50 degrees Celsius, it's 100 degrees Celsius, we are actually measuring it on the centigrade heat units. Now we'll just go and see what the term calorie means to us. The amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water through 1 degree Celsius, that is from 15 degrees Celsius to 16 degrees Celsius, that particular thing is known as a calorie. It is as simple as that. You take 1 gram of water, that means you are taking a unit mass of water. You are taking it at 15 degrees Celsius. And now you will have to apply some energy to it in the form of heat to convert it into 16 degrees Celsius. So again, I have water with me at 15 degrees Celsius. That water is of a particular specific quantity, that is 1 gram. That 1 gram of water, which is at 15 degrees Celsius, has to go up to 16 degrees Celsius, and when it is going up from 15 degrees Celsius to 16 degrees Celsius, what is the amount of heat required for that? That particular thing is known as calorie. So over here we learnt about calorific value, we learnt the definition of calorific value as well as learnt about calories. Thank you so much.